Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending our virtual forum on governance and sustainability models for community-based tourism projects. My name is Brian Frontin. I'm the regional CBT technical consultant with the CTO. And on behalf of Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility and CTO, we welcome you for attending today. This is a very important element of all CBT projects, which is governance, which is how the clusters are going to organize themselves formally, and then sustainability. Long after these projects are conceived, funded, perhaps even contemplated and reach to a state of cohesion, how does the project continue to sustain itself financially, from a human resource perspective, and of course, the continued impact and growth that is expected within these cluster projects? This is often one of the most difficult components of CBTs because oftentimes we have to make that leap from an informal or perhaps a casual way of which we do business into formal legal structures with associated sustainability elements of financing or even how we go about funding future. Our CBTs are scratching their heads in this particular area. And noticing this particular issue and the track on which three of our pilot projects you'll hear about later today are at in their final quarters of implementation, we thought it'd be very important to have this important conversation and have a diverse range of speakers, stakeholders, and professionals who are going to provide you with options to consider as your clusters move towards formalization and the issues around sustainability and sustaining these operations in the future. So without any further delay, welcome again. And I want to first invite Wayne Elliott from Compete Caribbean. Wayne is the Productivity and Innovation Coordinator, and he'll bring some welcome remarks. Wayne?
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Brian. I look at the names in the chat and I feel as though I'm presenting among friends here. Nice to see many of you. Thanks for being here. So for sure, it's my pleasure to give some brief remarks on behalf of the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility and its donors, the Inter-American Development Bank, the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, FCDO, Global Affairs Canada, and the Caribbean Development Bank. Now, as many of you would already know, Compete Caribbean is really about supporting increases in productivity and innovation in Caribbean firms towards strengthening their contributions towards overall economic growth. Specifically, we aim to support firms to grow, compete, innovate, and into new sectors and markets. And thus far, over a 10-year plus record, we've been doing a pretty decent job in doing the catalytic things that nobody else is interested in touching, simply because the risk reward, and especially the risk, is pretty high. So we revel in our own ability to adapt and be innovative in the way that we support Caribbean firms and groups of firms, our clusters, to undertake their own work. At Compete, quite a few years ago, we recognized the power that sits within a community-based tourism type approach. And we recognize that it was a powerful channel for sustainable and inclusive economic development in the Caribbean. And so, at the behest of the CTO and, mutual agreement in how we partner and why we should partner on this, we determined that CBT and the financing of CBT made a lot of sense for the Caribbean and made a lot of sense for Compete Caribbean to be a part of. It aligns really well with our work within clusters and value chains, which some of you would be very familiar with, and it aligns really well with the methodologies that we've been using within the space. Building entrepreneurship and supporting innovation and entrepreneurial ecosystems, that's critical for us. It's a big challenge in the region that we think more attention needs to be paid to. And approaching it from a community-based tourism angle made a lot of sense for us. And we thought, if there's any way to support the region, especially after COVID, and even during COVID, ramping up our efforts within communities, especially those that are akin to or depend heavily on tourism, made sense for us. So it's for this reason and many others that we've been supporting and piloting CBT. and clustering within the Caribbean and very hard so within the last couple of years, right? During this process, we've learned many, many lessons. Believe me, many lessons. We've also come across many best practices. We've helped to create some of those. And some of these stories we believe are best told through the voices of our own beneficiaries, yes? And so today we're convening really to try to bring the best of both worlds together. We have a opportunity here within Compete, given where we sit, to be able to contract and reach some of the best talent internationally. And you'll be hearing from some of the consultants who've been working on some of our community-based type projects, some of the models that they've been utilizing, some of the methodologies that they've seen worked in supporting community-based initiatives. You'll also be hearing from a previous beneficiary of Compete Caribbean support, as well as a new beneficiary who's still going through the implementation of their own projects. They've already implemented or had a part of implementation on one Compete Caribbean project in our previous iteration, and they're leveraging that experience to try to expand the model and the methodology into a different region within the same geographical space, right? And so for us, I mean, we're happy to be able to participate. We're happy to be able to convene or to assist in convening these types of events or workshops where we could essentially learn from each other, learn, you know, from others just like us, what they're doing, what has worked, what hasn't worked, so we can be able to fast track and get many of our clusters and value chains on to greener pastures collaboratively. Finally, I wish to reiterate our gratitude to the CTO for partnering with us to help us to deliver on our mandate. And if you really want to learn more about the work that we're still doing in CBT and in some of the other areas, some of the other clusters in some of the other countries, please visit our website, www.competecaribbean.org. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Wade. I appreciate it. Over next to Amanda Charles. Amanda is the Sustainable Tourism Specialist at the CTO and, of course, has a lot of experience in community-based tourism projects across the region. And welcome, Amanda. Just provide us some opening remarks. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian, and good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'm really happy to be able to continue our partnership with the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility to deliver this, I think, very important forum on governance and sustainability models for community-based tourism. At the heart of this initiative lies the vision to empower communities and create socioeconomic benefits for all. Community-based tourism is not just a concept, it is a powerful approach that puts control in the hands of community members themselves. It emphasizes active participation, development, management, and ownership of enterprises that can offer enriching experiences to both locals and foreign visitors. So CTO initiated this collaborative partnership with our partner CCPF way back in 2017, and together we've delivered capacity building, created tools to support CBT development, and have benefited a lot from the technical assistance that Compete Caribbean continues to provide to ensure there is sustainability and growth in terms of entrepreneurship development in our region. So heartfelt thanks to Compete Caribbean and the work that they continue to do. And of course, today I would like to extend my thanks to the speakers who have graciously joined us and will be sharing invaluable insights and their own experiences. So we have today two experts at Swiss Contact who will lead us in exploring thought leadership on CBT cluster development and governance. And we are also joined, as Wayne would have mentioned, by CBT practitioners themselves, successful CBT initiatives from Guyana and Jamaica. And we will hear their experiences, lessons learned, and of course, best practices, because these initiatives have shown to be sustainable. So as we convene under the banner of this virtual forum, I would just like to remind us that the core objective of community-based tourism is to ensure fair and equitable community participation and benefits in the tourism product and experience. And I believe that this principle must remain central to our discussions today on cluster governance. And we should strive to empower communities, ensuring that they are not just passive recipients of tourism, but active contributors to its success. So once again, to all our attendees, including the 3 clusters which are ongoing in the Bahamas, Belize, and Dominica, and we will hear today from their experiences as they navigate CBT cluster development in their territories. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and let's have rich discussion and productive deliberations. Thanks, and over to you, Brian.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it. Now we're going to go to the actual thought leadership and the best practice conversation. And I'm very happy to introduce Cecilia and Issa. They both have relevant experience working within the Caribbean and internationally, and they're from Swiss Contact. And they're going to carry us through some of the fundamentals to considerations that are for cluster governance as well as sustainability of community-based tourism projects. And let me introduce Cecilia and Issa. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian, and thanks everybody for attending this forum, this discussion. I'll just ask my colleague Cecilia to please share the presentation. Okay. So I'd just like to very briefly introduce Swiss Contact. Sorry, Cecilia, I can see all the presenters' slides with the next notes. Maybe if you click on presenters view.
Also, if you have 2 monitors running, turn one off. So there's just one monitor showing the slides.
Okay, if not, I'll just get started with the presentation. So I just wanted to very briefly introduce Swiss Contact. So we are implementing, yes, thank you, we can see it now. So we are a partner organization to implement international development projects. So we have now over 60 years of existence. We are funded as a non-profit organization, so we are independent. Based with our headquarters in Switzerland, in Zurich, and our mission is to promote inclusive economic, social, and ecological development. So really supporting developing and emerging destinations. We work in different areas of expertise. So one of them being tourism, but we also have other working areas. So we work as well in skills development, in trade, in sustainable agriculture, and trade as well. But we are here today to present you a little bit more the work that we do in the tourism sector. Next, please. So these are just the areas that I was talking about. So we have, we can see in the next slide how we are working in different countries. So we have all projects in over 40 countries. Next, please. So we have actively, as I said before, so we are really like an implementation agency. So we have long-term implementation projects lasting from minimum 4 years up to 8 and sometimes 12 years, working in different areas around the globe. So in the Americas, in Africa, Asia and Southeast Asia, but also Eastern Europe. So here we are just to show you a little bit of an overview of some of these countries and projects where we operate. But just to go next specifically to the area of tourism as it's a topic today. So in the tourism sector, next please. We have projects in, again, many different countries. Next. So we would be having countries, projects that relate both to tourism and hospitality. So some of them in here in this map, we can just see some of the projects where we have been working either currently or in the past. And these projects go from destination management projects, but also projects that relate to developing skills in the hospitality sector, or also product and marketing strategies, community development as well. So this is just a very brief overview of our portfolio, and just to give you a little bit more of detail, some facts and figures about our projects. We currently have over 80 people, employees and collaborators working either directly or indirectly in our tourism and hospitality. And as I said, just with some specific thematic areas related to destination, to development and management, as we will be talking today, but also hospitality and skills development. And everything we do, it's always with a very strong demand orientation, so really targeting the marketing needs, but obviously taking an inclusive systems development approach. And overall, we work obviously transversely in sustainability. As I said, we do long-term projects implementation, so 4, 8, 12 years, but also sometimes some shorter advisory and consultancy assignments, such as and the one that we are currently doing in Guyana, that we'll talk briefly later, as well as some other training and coaching or knowledge exchange and facilitation. And since 1999, we have worked in over 76 projects in 31 countries, and our clients are very diverse. So sometimes we work with our Swiss institutions, so projects funded by the Ministry and Secretariat of Economic Affairs, but also from other country donor agencies from Germany, Australia, Japan, Canada, Sweden, and sometimes as well from the private sector, so foundations, bilateral and multilateral organizations such as IDB or the World Bank or UN, and sometimes as well with direct governments and countries. So this is just to very briefly give you an overview of who is Swiss Contact, and now I'll pass on to my colleague Cecilia, who will be talking to you specifically more about the cluster management and development of community-based projects.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Cecilia. I've been working for Swiss Contact for about 10 years, and I'm specialized in inclusive economic development, especially in governance and sustainable tourism development. I'm French, so if you have some difficulties to understand me, don't hesitate to interrupt me to ask. I think we have about like 15 minutes now, so just Sean, if I'm going too late or if I'm too long, just please tell me, and then let's see how we can go further or we can accelerate. Okay, so today, as Brian said, we've been asked to look at some methodologies, experiences, and maybe some specific paths that we should think about when we think about developing a cluster in sustainable tourism. So let me see, does it work? Yes, I could change. Controlling the screen. Okay, so the agenda will look at some, what are we talking about? We can do a few very basic definitions. We will look at what is a destination, or we can manage tourism destination, what are the concepts that are in place now, that are currently shared among the international community in how to manage destination. We'll look at some examples, and we will discuss about how to build a sustainable community-based tourism cluster based on different experiences. Yeah, and then we'll have time for questions. So maybe the first one is what are we talking about? So very basic one is about governance. So you will see in developing tourism, and developing cluster, it's very important to think about the governance and speak about the governance at different levels. Governance, national governance, the internal governance of a cluster. So the term of governance is very, very important, and it's important to well understand it. So basically the governance refers to the decision mechanism, making and management process, and it's all about having as an objective to ensure efficiency, accountability, transparency at different levels of governance. We will see that a bit later. Then you have the definition of cluster. So basically cluster mainly at the beginning came from the economic sector, but then we have cluster just being together. So I haven't reinvented the wheel, it's just a definition of quarter. So I think everybody knows this definition. Then we have what is a community-based tourism cluster. So basically it's about gathering of community of businesses with the aim to empower local communities and provide authentic and immersive travel experiences. Then we have as a last definition, community-based tourism, a community-based tourism destination. So it's a location planned, developed, and maintained by locals for tourism purposes. So you will see that I will use a lot the term of this destination. So of course we speak about touristic destination. So what is a destination? So destination is first of all a territory. So a territory delimited in a geographical area, more or less homogeneous, and essentially defined by a desire or factor to develop a project. So in this case of tourism, it could be the same space to develop tourism offer in a territory beyond or outside the administrative borders. So it is very important that when we speak about territory, we speak about the identity of a product. Then we have the term of brand, of label. So the destination has an attractive marketing image. It can be identified by tourists, visitors, and that allows to differentiate itself from competitors. For instance, we have Paris. It's a big city. One can say that it's like any European city, but the brand of Paris is obviously, as everybody knows, it's the Eiffel Tower. It could be sometimes seen a bit weird for Parisian people because, of course, we have many exceptional monuments in Paris, but the Eiffel Tower is just known by everybody, and it's the only place where you can have the Eiffel Tower, except maybe in Las Vegas or in other countries, but it's always to represent Paris. Then we have the concept that we have defined in Swiss contact with the University of St. Gallen, which is a Swiss university. It's the visitor flows. So we will look at a bit after what is a visitor flows, but more precisely, a destination is where we have one or several visitor flow. And it is where it is clear that we have flows of visitors that comes in and out of the destination, and that they have expressed that they come to visit this place, a place where you have decided to go and visit, and of course, when you don't live in. So it's important to understand the term of visitors. Sometimes people prefer to use of tourists, but we prefer to use the term of visitor because tourists if you use BIT, it's more, if you use the UN WTO definition, it means that you have to spend at least one night in the destination. But when you use the term of visitor, it's more about the motivation of the displacement, the motivation of why you are coming in this place. So that helps us to understand a bit more the demand. Okay, so now we will look at what is visitor flow, if I can change. I think I'm struggling a bit. Okay, so the visitor flow. So Swiss contact analysis. In Swiss contact analysis, to understand a destination and to understand how we can develop a destination, a tourism destination, will include the visitor flow analysis. So when we work on destination development, many times we focus a lot on the offer and how to improve the offer. And we look at the demand only most of the time when we think about marketing and when we think about promotion. But then it's a bit too late, because when you want to develop the offer, it's important to know well in advance the visitor flow. I mean, what kind of visitor come in your destination, why they are coming, and how we can adjust the offer, even in the future, to prepare the type of visitor flow that you would like to have in the destination. So a destination consists of several visitor flows. To define those flows, we look at who comes, what motivates them, and what do they do. And from those questions, we will find out that several types of visitors come to your destination, and the demand is made of several visitor flows. Once you well know your visitors, then you can shape your offer, and you can shape the demand. You can influence as well the demand and choose to increase the type of visitor flow you wish to have by shaping your offer and marketing it to specific visitor flows. Thus, we develop a destination that ensures that the demands fit with the offer and vice versa. And we can ensure that a sustainable tourism development that is wished by the community, by the local, is well on track. So it's important that when you have, for instance, when you see the trend that more mass tourism is increasing in your country and you don't want to have this mass tourism in your destination, then you can look at the trend and you can look at the profile and your product, and you can adjust the product to make sure that finally at the end, the mass tourism may decrease, because you will adjust your product according to the type of visitor that you would like to have. So if you want to stop, for example, mass tourism, you might think, okay, we will not going to build big hotels. We're not going to make cheap rates. We are going to have only luxury guest houses, high-end customers. So when you know the type of visitor flows, then you can develop the offer and you can adjust and make sure that you will fit and you will address the type of visitor flows that you would like to have. And it's very important, especially when you think about community tourism. I mean, for big destination, it's not too much about community, but when it's for community tourism, it's important to understand what kind of visitor we'd like to come and what kind of visitor the communities wish, in order to not disturb the community and to arrange the offer by the community as much as possible as well to the motivation and to the needs of the visitor. Then you can ensure as well sustainable economic activities. Okay, so now we have seen what is the destination. We have seen who come in our destination, and then we have to see what needs to be managed in a destination when we want to develop a destination in a sustainable way. So again, with the University of St. Helens Swiss Contact, we have developed this table, this graph. You can see with 11 functions of a destination. So you have the planning and policy, you have project development, promotion and marketing, quality assurance, etc., etc. So it's a kind of value chain for tourism, but not exactly. It's more different kind of blocks and activities that needs to be strengthened in order to develop destination management, and to make sure as well that you can organize the different actors in a good way in order to have the proper mechanism to develop a destination. I've seen that there is a hand raised. I don't know, can someone tell me? I just see. Yes.
No, just proceed. We will
Okay.
questions at the end of all presentations.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe, Cecilia, if you can move to the next slide, we still see the one on the visitor flows.
Okay, sorry.
Good.
Okay, so these are the 11 functions. So the idea is to ensure that relevant actors take responsibility for strengthening the different functions of the destination and for putting in place adequate need-based organizational mechanism. And before talking about what kind of cluster and who should be inside the cluster, it was important to look at what is a destination, who are the visitors, how we can analyze the visitor, how we can influence the visitor, and what needs to be managed. Because once you know what needs to be managed, you can define the proper cluster setting that you need in your destination. Okay. So how to manage a tourism destination? The main concept that we have about how to manage a destination, it's the DMO concept. So we have seen a destination management means a holistic approach where many aspects or function of a destination are managed through a coordinated process. So the concept of DMO, it's quite famous in Switzerland. I think we have more than 100 DMOs in Switzerland in the late 20s, from the late 20th centuries. I mean, one of the first DMO was in the mountain when they start receiving the English for skiing activities. The mandate of the first DMO was essentially focused on tourism marketing. But then, of course, over the course of changes in the sector, they have evolved and developed into multiple facets. So you can see in the slide, so DMO, it's a destination. So we have seen earlier what the destination is: a territory, a brand, visitor flows. So destination are demarcated according to legal, political consideration, community, heritage, or tourism product identity. Then we have the management. So the M means that a territory destination as an organization with professional management capacity to promote the region and to perform different functions. Could be services to members, for instance. And then you have the O, it's an organization and collaboration of tourist stakeholders. It can take different organization and legal forms. Most of the time it's decentralized, therefore autonomous, bringing together regional actors belonging or linked to a territory with a significant involvement, especially financial, of members. And most of the time as well, 99% of the cluster, but it's not compulsory, but it's from the experience, it's public and private partnerships. So including tourism providers, communities, associations, as well as technical services directly involved in tourism. So basically, it's just a concept. DMO is a concept of putting together people, actors for tourism decision management and development. So then it can have many kind of forms, but it's just the idea actually to put people together and to offer some services to develop and to manage a destination. So one form of DMO, as you can see, and it's related to the subject of today, it's the community-based tourism cluster. So basically, a community-based tourism cluster, most of the time, you have many 6 core elements of a community-based cluster. So you have a core team, an organization, as we discussed before. So this team oversees the overall functioning of the cluster and deal with the important decision-making process, such as marketing, tourism activities, and financial management. You have as well, oh, sorry, I think I'm still stuck. You have local businesses like homestays, lodges, restaurants, or any kind of related amenities. So they provide accommodation, foods, and other services to visitors. Then you have community members who benefit from tourism and cultural exchange. They really form the backbone of any community-based tourism cluster. Then you have the government as well. The involvement of the local or national government and NGO is very vital to ensure that the community tourism development project runs smoothly and enables a sustainable environment for the community, especially in terms of infrastructure and policy. So most of the time, governments are more in the policy and legal framework. And you have, of course, the visitor and tourists. Visitor and tourists are significant component of any tourism cluster. And sometimes it's not well considered in the cluster because they're not seen really as being part of a community base, but it's really important, as we have seen for the visitor flow, to take into account the views and the feedback from the visitors. So some community clusters, they have found ways to get the feedback from the visitor flow, from the visitors and from the tourists. So I think it's always interesting to find a mechanism to get their feedback in an honest way, not only looking at Facebook but really how we can involve them in developing the tourism in the community. Then, of course, you have the tour operator or intermediary that play roles in connecting visitors and local businesses in the tourism sector. They do as well sometimes marketing and coordinate visitor activities. Okay, so now we have seen the community-based tourism cluster. I mean, we can be part of it. And then we can see as well the type of community-based tourism cluster. So we can have many different types of community-based, different type of legal forms. So you can have community-based tourism cooperative, you can have NGO, non-governmental organization, you can have local governments. Sometimes they play a role as well in coordinating the tourism development inside the community, although it's not really then community-based in the sense that's with people from the community, but sometimes they really play the role of a platform. You have public and private partnerships, usually formed between local communities, private businesses, and public to promote and develop sustainable tourism activities. You can have really community-based organization, group of local residents, without being very professional, just group of local residents. And it could be tourism association, it could be tourism boards, and it could be as well sometimes social enterprises. Okay, so now we look at the different kind of services that a cluster or a demo can propose, that they can propose to their members, that they can propose to the visitor, or that they can propose to their partners, to the stakeholders in the regions. So you will see these triangles. So it's organized. The easiest services to organize is at the bottom, and the most complex is as the more complex ones are at the top of the pyramid. Not all of the services are provided by one demo, except maybe very well advanced and very well funded demo can provide those 13 type of services. Then a demo or cluster, you can select which services you can implement. Of course, it depends on the vision of the demo of the cluster. It depends on its priority, depends on the fund, and of course, depends on the human capacity, human capabilities. So you can see, for instance, that the easiest one seems to be the destination marketing and promotion. And then you have coordination and exchange, visitor services, visitor satisfaction surveys, access to training, etc., etc. This is based on international experiences from different demos in the world, but of course, it really depends on your context, on your own capacity and the capacity of the DMO. Sometimes some services are a bit easier to implement because you have the support from training providers, because you have special funding, etc. So it really depends on your own context, but this is more or less. Okay, I need to speed up. Sorry, so risk and complexity. Oh, I still have a lot actually. So we can look at the different risk and complexity. So to work on the sustainability of the tourism cluster, it's important to look at the governance, the tourism governance system to avoid conflicts, to avoid concentration of power, exclusion, and to look at the business model, and to avoid as well competition, institutional competition between the different national or local stakeholders, public or private stakeholders that plays a role in tourism destination. So all those points are very important to consider. So now, how we can build a sustainable community-based tourism cluster. When you want to build a sustainable tourism cluster, it's why it is. First, sorry, we start by it is important to be part of the national tourism system of governance. It's a bit difficult to be isolated when you think of building a sustainable community-based tourism cluster. I mean, always we can think it's nice to be very much independent and to avoid a little bit to be too much with the system. But when you think about sustainability, you have to think about why this cluster is relevant in the system. And once it is relevant, then you can get support. You can get financial support. You can increase your activities and so on, and you can have partnership and so on. So it's important to look at the national tourism system and to make sure that you have your own role and you create added value at your own level. But it's important for the people to perceive that you create your own value. So, as I said as well, it's important because to avoid political agenda conflicts, to avoid funding conflicts as well, because sometimes when you have overlapping of services, overlapping of vision, some other organization can claim funds instead of you. To ensure real long-term relevance, to ensure potential synergies, complementarity, and to look at as well what are the existing models into the system and not work in isolation, and as well to create added value network in the tourism value chain or in the destination function. So it's important to look at what is going on to make sure that what is going to propose can be linked with other activities and with other partnerships, with other partners, etc. And then you can get as well in return, of course, some support and some fundings. Okay, this is, for instance, the destination management in Switzerland, the national system. So you can see you have a national level, regional, sub-regional level, local level. So I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, sorry, now you can see it. So all those levels are very much interlinked. So you have the Switzerland, the first one on the top, it's a Switzerland tourism agency. So it's mainly the national umbrella. And then, for instance, you have the regional levels, it's a Fribourg. So it's as well overarching the different regions inside Fribourg. And then you have the Gruyère tourism, which is a demo. And the Gruyère, it's implementing action plan and respecting destination. And then you have the local level, which is the business level. And they deliver activities, welcome the visitors and so on. And they give feedback to the DMO. They give photos, they give marketing tools, marketing material, contents to the La Gruyère in order that Gruyère can promote the destination, I mean the Charmey destination. Okay, so it's important to understand as well that the DMO is not alone, not only the leadership, but it can create a mechanism of network. So you can see the red dot, it's a DMO. So it's really you're part of a network. It's not that a DMO leads everything and everything should go through the DMO. It's a very basic graph, but it happens many times with the demo think that he has to lead everything. No, the demo has to create synergies. That's the most important point to remind. Otherwise, anyway, you can't. It's too much to do for a demo, even if you have a lot of budget and so on. And it's not the role of the demo. The role of the demo is to lead some activities, but to as well to create a network inside the system. Okay, so here this is the main recommendation we have given to visit community about how to strengthen their positioning in the national tourism system. So I will not go through since you have a presentation to visit community, so you can look at it after. Okay, so after making sure you are well positioned in the national system, it's very important to have a strong internal cluster governance and management. To look at this internal governance, you have six areas that you need to analyze very well to ensure the sustainability of your cluster. It's the vision, the status, the constitution, the governance, and the internal function of your cluster. So basically, I mean, vision and mission is very clear. Status, it's very important that you find the right status for your demo. Depends on the status, you're allowed to do one activity, you're not allowed to sell something, not allowed to do advocacy. So it's very important that based on the vision and your mission, that you look at the right status for your activities. A governance analysis, as I said, it's related to this part of the presentation. It is about the internal governance. So it's important. The purpose of conducting an internal governance analysis is to ensure effective and efficient management, promote transparency, accountability, and basically enhance organizational performance and success. It's very, very important. Why? It's to avoid internal conflict and to ensure the continued engagement of the members. And if you miss to have a good internal governance, I mean, the main result that you will lose recognition and you will lose maybe future support. And you put at risk the viability of the business model if members disengage themselves from the demo. I mean, the point that's in a cluster, you need really to have very good internal governance as well for the future, not only to run activities for the future. If you want to raise money, if you want to get subsidies and so on, always people will ask the cluster, how is it managed? How is the involvement, the engagement of your members, etc., etc. Do you apply the constitution? Do you follow the status, etc.? So most of the time when we speak about sustainability, people think only about fundings. We need money. But you can't raise money if you are not well organized. So it's a very important point. Okay, so vision, status. Yes, sorry.
Two more minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, challenges in funding demos. Limited government fundings, of course, public fundings to find a practical and efficient mechanism. You need to demonstrate return on investment of tourism marketing campaigns. It's challenging sometimes for DMO, because sometimes we invest a lot in marketing, in activities, but then, of course, the return of investment it's a bit low. Even for the members, sometimes they expect a lot from the DMO, but it certainly takes years to see the return on investment. And sometimes as well, you have an increase of competition between demos and between destinations. So it's always more and more effort to differentiate your offer to other destinations. And sometimes as well, you have limited private sector engagement. It depends on the destination, it depends of your private sector, of course, in your destination, but sometimes, especially in community-based projects, it's a bit difficult for small businesses to invest in a demo. Private sector contribution by monthly membership is not enough. Most of the time it's not working, even in Switzerland. I mean, 70% of the contribution of the DMO in Switzerland, it's from the public sector actually. So it's very challenging for DMO to be sustainable without any public funds. Okay, so it is the last slide regarding the models. So we have discussed with Visit Nuni, we have proposed them different revenue models. Then we look at them and define which one they would like to implement. So we have, of course, industry memberships. You can have as well management fees, destination management fees. You can have activities like booking and commission for the demos. Of course, you can have merchandising, and you can have as well some other activities linking to tourism development projects, and you can sell your services to other DMO, to emerging DMOs, or to Ministry of Tourism. Sometimes they would like to have your support or your advice on how to develop another destination. So this is for Rupa, and for Flores, which is an island in Indonesia. It's more or less the same: services, advertisements, booking, training as well. I forgot.
Cecilia, can you advance the slide? I don't think we're seeing the slide.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. Thanks.
Yeah. And that's it actually.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And of course, we'll be sharing this presentation after the session today. Thank you, Cecilia. I want to do some summaries on the takeaways I've seen. First for CBTs, that you understand the offer and what is on demand in terms of deciding, of all the things that are possible within your destination, which are the priority areas you want to focus on. Let me recommend strongly the CBT toolkit, as mentioned by Wayne and Amanda. This toolkit can help prioritize and help with shaping those particular priorities that the destination needs to consider. I know Cecilia also spoke about the DMO concept, and I think we're clearer now that DMO in itself doesn't necessarily mean all the different components. It's an overarching concept, and then you have the different structures that you can pursue. In fact, I counted about maybe 8+, which means that destinations are free to consider what works best. There's no one size fit all. And sometimes we use DMO as the solution when it's really the umbrella to several different structures that can work for different destinations based on the local context. I think was very key on the sustainability bit was examples of services that could be offered by the selected entity. And I like the whole complexity and risk, because sometimes we want to pick all of the things we should be doing. Perhaps we should have a more staged and phased approach to building some of that activity within that formal structure, starting from the least complex with the lowest risk to those things that become more complex and have higher returns but accompanying risk. The holistic systems approach or systematic approach, that whole concept of protecting the destination through the DMO to the point where we're not collaborating is something I think that we should also flag as necessary to not be the ethos of forming a DMO. It's not to exclude the external parties or the collaborative entities you could partner with, but rather to be a conduit in which you can bring in and invite others to collaborate with the DMO. And of course, finally, that need for strong internal cluster governance and the steps of analysis, which of course we share, so you can use those things to really do as a checklist of how am I in these different areas as I move along. Cecilia, I don't think anyone on this webinar is unfamiliar with the challenges you've raised. I think they're not peculiar to the Caribbean or not peculiar to the region. I think we're very clear on the challenges, but thank you for your presentation today and for those insights. Next, folks, and of course, as a housekeeping reminder, we'll take Q&A at the end, but in the meantime, if you'd like to throw them in the Q&A section, I'll be able to direct them to the panelists now at the end of the sessions. And of course, we'll also be doing a roundup and an ability for persons to voice their feedback towards the end. In the interest of time, let me move quickly on to what Swiss Contact was referring to, a live example of a cluster project, CBT project that has reached to the stage of governance and sustainability, and we'd like to hear directly from those experiences because that's where some of our current projects are at, that consideration phase. Let me invite, therefore, and welcome the Rupununi CBT cluster experience from Guyana, Ms. Melanie McTurk and Yusuf Abraham from Visit Rupununi, and they'll deliver a quick presentation on the experience in Guyana. Thank you.
Good morning. Yusuf, could we see you for a moment, maybe as we start? and could we have our presentation? Hey guys, all right, so for those who don't know us, I'm Melanie and this is Yusuf. We are from Guyana, but we are from a part of Guyana that many other people in the Caribbean don't really know, and that is the Rupununi. Am I sharing or are you guys sharing the presentation for me?
You are.
Do you want to run the video first and then go to your slides?
No, it's all right. I can just go, Upa. Hold up.
Straight to
Sorry
the slides,
about
no
that.
video?
I closed everything. All right, let me just run this from me then. Sorry about that. Right, so yeah. Are you guys seeing us?
Yes, I can see you.
Great.
Yes, we are.
All right, so we are from the Rupununi region in Guyana. Just to give you a little introduction to that, we are in southern Guyana. This is about 300 miles away from the capital city. In terms of practical, what that means practically, we're talking about a flight of at least an hour to an hour and a half, or 12 to 15 hours of driving. We are home to 40% of Guyana's indigenous population. And we are on the border with Brazil. One of the outstanding things about the Rupununi, of course, is our amazing wildlife and culture and ecosystems. And that has set us up as what is considered the premier tourism and nature tourism experience in Guyana, in the Guyana tourism roster. And most importantly about that is, of a population of about 20,000 people, it's estimated that about 50% of those people are earning a living through tourism every year at some point in the year. So Visit Rupununi then evolved out of the need for us as a community to have some sort of representation. Today we have over 80 members, and we are very much recognized as the coordinating body for the region in terms of tourism and the voice of Rupununi tourism. Our mission: to develop, improve, and promote sustainable tourism in the Rupununi, to promote, preserve the Rupununi's unique landscape, wildlife, and culture. So recognizing that these wild spaces and culture are very much intermingled in everything we do. So our work really focuses on this idea of respecting wild spaces and tradition and culture, but also making sure that we are building profitable and responsible businesses, and that we're empowering the people who are residents of the Rupununi to really take ownership of the tourism products and, of course, those assets that are part of the tourism structure that is the Rupununi. And we do that through a number of mechanisms. So it's important to note that anyone in the Rupununi can be part of Visit Rupununi, and that our executive are made up of representatives from the various regions in the Rupununi. We like to say that we have four main focuses, that is marketing, advocacy, networking, and capacity building. So a lot of what has made Visit Rupununi stand out is our ability to communicate with the region as a whole. The Rupununi, if you think of it in terms of the size of Guyana, is almost a full quarter of Guyana's size. So it's a very ambitious idea that we would have one DMO to represent this whole community. And then we also have different tribes in different parts of this community. So it is very important that we are giving fair and equitable access to everyone. And of course, that we are promoting things like regulations, improvement of quality, and protection of our assets. A lot of the training we do is done by our personnel themselves or in collaboration with the GTA, depending on the funds available and what services GTA, which is the Guyana Tourism Authority. Please forgive me, I'm so very accustomed to just working in a Guyana context. And that has resulted in the Rupa Nuni currently having some of the highest compliance in terms of tourism standards in the country. And of course, VR is now certified as a trainer. In terms of our marketing, most of our marketing efforts are domestic, recognizing that the Guyana Tourism Authority is better placed to do international marketing. We do focus on local marketing efforts. The other important thing, again, is this idea of our tourism assets are part and parcel of who we are and our culture. So we have this wonderful behavioral change campaign called Keep the Rupa Nuni Wild that encourages people through signage and other things to protect specific species. We also help to coordinate events in the region like the rodeo, and our newest event is the Craft to Table Market, which specifically engages women and girls. And we're especially proud of the work we have done in the development of a wildlife-friendly tourism manual and seal. These are the 13 values of the wildlife-friendly tourism agreement. And we have actually started the certification with a number of our members. So across the region, you can start now looking for plaques like these that indicate which businesses are certified as wildlife friendly, and as they achieve the different levels of achievement, it'll be so that's some of our work in a nutshell. The challenges are, of course, that we are an incredibly young organization, only founded in 2017. We have no sort of government subsidies or anything. So we have very much had to carve out a niche for ourselves. We are also incredibly small. We are very reliant on volunteer support. We only have 1 full-time member and 2 part-time employees. So, of course, there's a lack of core funding, a lack of capacity in the region, and a huge demand for services. And of course, COVID has decimated our region, much like everyone else. One of the challenges coming into this particular collaboration with Compete Caribbean is the fact that the Rupa Nuni is so vast. Most of the existing tourism product is in the North Rupa Nuni, where there was one discrete Compete Caribbean project previously that engaged 3 locations in one sector of the Rupa Nuni. And I am going to now then hand over to Yusuf, who's going to tell you more about the South Rupa Nuni Cluster Development Project that we have with Compete Caribbean. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. Good day, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. So as Mel was saying, I'm just going to pick up from where she left off. So we are currently now doing the South Rupa Nuni Cluster Development Project. And as Melanie was saying, that the Rupa Nuni is very vast, it's very large. So being very ambitious, we are in an attempt to create a circuit similar to the North, but in the South Rupa Nuni. As part of that, some of the objectives of the project was to develop new tourism market-driven products in the South Rupa Nuni, and it was focused on 10 new market-ready products. Also being a part of it was to conduct the institutional strengthening of Visit Rupa Nuni, and this was very important as well as the capacity of tourism stakeholders. There was also the assisting of creating a marketing strategy for each one of those 10 products that was targeting specific markets. And then lastly, to conduct the feasibility assessment on digital payments to see if that is something that can be done in the South. However, as Melanie has mentioned, due to the remoteness and vastness of the Rupa Nuni, this remains a huge challenge for most of the communities. Then to get the project implemented, we needed a team of international consultants, basically guiding us to let us know how to achieve those goals. We also focus on training local trainers that would then help with the implementation of the work. And out of that, a much better coordination and collaboration between the Guyana Tourism Authority and Visit Rupa Nuni to implement the regional fieldwork in terms of coordination and logistics. Next slide, Mel. Based on what we've learned so far, as Melanie stated, COVID has definitely taken a toll on us. And due to this, there have been numerous setbacks in terms of getting persons mobilized, getting to the villages, getting consultants to come in. So that has been a huge detriment to the project. Fundings in terms of getting the right personnel for the job. We feel that in order to truly have the project get to the point to where we want it to be or where we need it to be, getting the right persons for the job has been very difficult. The Rupa Nuni is, even though it's very large in land mass and land space, it is not very heavily populated. And due to this, there has been a major lack in finding the right resource persons that are passionate about the work, persons that are academically qualified for the positions. Also, in terms of mentorship, there has been a lack of mentorship for the local trainers and for these personnel. So even though we did have trainers and we did have persons on the team that were implementing the work, we feel that with the need of additional mentorship would have changed drastically the outcome of what we were expecting for the project. And likewise, having that mentorship sustained over the course of the project. So we've only received a trainer of trainers session once. And again, this is based on a series of factors as it relates to COVID, accessibility to the south, weather conditions, road conditions. So if we had continued sustained mentorship from the consultancy, things may have been a bit different and better. However, out from the project, we were able to then develop a strong relationship with the Compete Caribbean team. And out of this as well, I had the opportunity of attending my very first CCPF event in Barbados. And I feel personally that if this event was done at, I guess, prior to when it was, I think it was in June, it would have been much more valuable to myself and the organization in terms of implementing the work that we're currently doing. Next slide, ma'am. So the highlights so far, we have been working very close with the Guyana Tourism Authority, and they have been supporting us financially in terms of funding some of the work that needs to get done, and in terms of logistics and coordination. Again, reiterating what I said previously, we now have a very close relationship with Compete Caribbean, which we're very much happy about. And the collaboration between the Guyana Tourism Authority and Visit Community has only strengthened since. We also now have a better recognition in terms of community engagement. So we have been visiting quite a few villages and communities in South Rupa Nuni. And based on that, we are now, I would say, easily recognized by these persons. In terms of the last one, we have, as I mentioned previously, we were tasked with having 10 new market-ready products set up. However, we aren't getting to that number, so we were only able to shortlist six of those 10. And this brings me now to the to the wrapping up session in terms of getting those 6 products market ready and ready for the market, and having to focus a lot on the marketing strategy and creating a marketing strategy for each one of those products to then make it easily connectable to the market for those communities. And it is also important that for us, we are to continue to be the change leader and to have the opportunity to work in terms of working more with Compete Caribbean and other funders and donors and have those opportunities. And lastly is to focus on the sustainability of the organization after this project has ended. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to present. And now over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Yusuf, and thank you, Melanie, for this incredible presentation on the realities of implementation. I think it's a very sobering feedback, and I think that you're doing a tremendous job trying to tackle a massive land space with those challenges. But notwithstanding, I think the clarity that will come from today can help infuse some of your considerations for the South Circuit. So good luck with that, and of course, feel free to reach out to us to get some further insights, and of course, the presentation afterwards. I see some questions in, but what we'll do is just take the presentation from Treasure Beach, the CBT cluster experience that was completed out of Jamaica. And just after that presentation, we'll take those couple questions. If there are any other questions from these presentations, which would be from Swiss Contact, Rupa experience, and from Treasure Beach in Jamaica, we will then take a bit of time, a few minutes, and just address those questions and direct them to the relevant parties thereafter. So let me invite and welcome Jason Hensel and Victoria Elliott, the chairman and the Treasure Beach Destination Manager, to present at this time. Thank you.
Hi, Brian. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. And I just wanted to start off by saying, you know, we really appreciate the support and the funding that we got from Compete Caribbean to create a model for community tourism in Jamaica. Most persons will know that about 95% of Jamaica's tourism is an all-inclusive package, kind of mass market tourism, and we saw an opportunity to create a different model. And it was the support largely from Compete Caribbean that got us, you know, the funding to work with professionals, and work on a lot of the things that Victoria is going to present now. So I just wanted to thank off by thanking you for your support.
Thank you, Jason. I was going to say exactly that the number, you know, what makes this destination so different is that it's sort of the exact opposite of what most people in the US and UK and our other big markets like Canada know of when they think of the Caribbean, and specifically Jamaica, which are the cruise ships and the all-inclusives. And so we are a very small destination. I'll say that I'm new to the DMO, and I've been coming to Treasure Beach through a friendship with Jason that my husband and I have had for 30 years, since before Jake's even opened. I'm the new chairperson that's taken over from the original founding chairperson, so I'm very much still learning. The presentation that I'll show is a PowerPoint that was made by our current secretary, Christine Merritt, who has a PhD in social policy from UWI, the University of the West Indies, and she holds positions there at the university still in administration and program policy. So I will go through it, talks about sort of reflections on the founding of the DMO, and then I'll push towards a little bit, I'll move through fairly quickly and show sort of our current successes and mention some of our challenges very briefly, because I think everyone here knows, you know, shares them. So I'll look forward to questions and answers, but specifically questions on my part when we're all done with the wonderful presentations that I've seen so far. Thank you. Bear with me while I share the screen, hopefully. Oops, that's starting at the end. Let me turn my video off. Here we go. So just a little bit about where we are. Also in Jamaica, we are in an area that is not super accessible by airplane. The Montego Bay Airport is on the north coast. Kingston.
Sorry, Victoria, just pause for a minute. We're seeing not the slideshow itself. Can you start from the slideshow?
Huh.
Yeah, we're seeing your presentation within PowerPoint.
What are you seeing?
On the side. If you click on the slideshow from beginning.
Yes.
And move to your second slide.
Are you seeing the first slide now?
No, you're still within the function.
You have to click on the slideshow feature at the top of your screen.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Screen sharing, stop sharing, bear with me.
No, don't stop sharing.
Oh, slideshow, got it.
Slideshow, right, and then play from start or play from current slide. Play from, right under slideshow, are you seeing play from start, play from current slide, presenter view, the list of options. Move your mouse to your left. Click on that, right, you can click on that one. There you go. Now you can just hit enter to go forward on your slides.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. No problem.
So as I said, just a reflection on the development of the history of how Treasure Beach DMO got started. And again, where we're located is the southwest portion of the island here. And it's an area that's comprised essentially of 5 fishing villages along the southwest coast. It's about a three and a bit hour drive from Montego Bay Airport, which is the closest airport. And there is also charter service for small planes, which is not used very currently, but we are working on an expansion of the aerodrome and getting more persons to use the charter service, because it's only a 20-minute flight from Montego Bay Airport, which is very handy. So when I say small, I mean small. The permanent population is just over 3,000. Historically, it's been a fishing and farming area. And in the last several decades, tourism obviously has become a big part of what we offer here. There are members, obviously, tour operators, small restaurants. There are 3 hotels essentially, and the largest one has 49 rooms. There's been a big increase in the number of villas being built, more than 100% increase in the last dozen years. So now there are over 100 privately owned villas. So obviously we all know what community tourism means. This is the government of Jamaica's definition, the interaction between the host community and visitors, leading to enjoyment of community experiences, etc. The tourists with personal interactive connections to local community members, and for communities themselves, an opportunity to interpret culture and appreciative audience and foster pride in their community. And this is very much what we focus on, with the DMO, trying to incorporate individual experiences for visitors, meeting up with locals in whatever capacity, whether it's boat captains or small restaurant owners or, people selling whatever goods, that they're making or selling. And really, Treasure Beach is unique in Jamaica. There's no other area that offers anything like what we offer, and we've been recognized for that, gaining an award in 2017 for Best Resort Town Experience. And, of course, we're very proud of that. And that was a while ago and pre-COVID, and we do have a lot of catching up to do since like everyone else, COVID really did set us back quite a lot. The community organizations who we affiliate with and collaborate with is probably our greatest strength. We are really anything that needs doing, small or big initiatives. Every organization that has been formed here, prior to our DMO and since, have all been very eager to work together with us, and in whatever capacity that means. And there's never a hesitation to help each other out. So starting back in the 80s, it was a Treasure Beach Citizens Association, and it basically was a very informal kind of group that I believe was meeting. They had a web group where they were talking online. There was Bread's Foundation was huge in support of our community, and Jason and prior, I think, Peace Corps volunteer Jason helped funded that in 1998. And that really created a place for not only our youth, but also just people, community members, everyone to go. It's a safe, huge environment where sports, it's allowed us to do incredible sports tourism where people, huge names in like Lennox Lewis in boxing and Serena Williams in tennis have come to do clinics and workshops. There's an annual basketball camp where hundreds of youths come from all over the region, you know, from hundreds of miles away to participate in an incredible basketball camp. We do swimming lessons. It's an incredible resource for the area, and also again works very closely with the DMO on all matters. The women's group, also founded in 2000 before us, has been just an incredible source of strength, helping with education, with children, with any amount of things that are, you know, a huge amount of education of women, and the community, just, you know, during COVID, delivering COVID supplies and food to those who needed it and helping out, and just always really from matters small and large, you know, weekly dance classes open to anyone, summer camp for dozens of children, just incredible events that they hold for the community. A craft shop, they're very low key, they own their own property, they're always improving it, and they do coastal cleanups in the environment periodically, and it's just, you know, an incredible group. Citizens Alert Group has also been a good collaborator with us, and we have also recently, I think coming forward, the Treasure Beach was the national best environment for social transformation. We also, we mentioned the collaboration between these groups. Funding has been, you know, getting grants and things has been difficult, but as Jason said, the Compete Caribbean funding was really vital in getting us as far as we have and getting recognition beyond Jamaica. And in 2019, our most recent member is the Treasure Beach Turtle Group, which is a small group that runs a small museum, but also a huge conservation effort with volunteers to nest and work on saving. Great partner as well, and we've been talking with them. Go ahead. Oh, my internet connection.
Lost you.
Sorry, the internet is a little tricky here.
Okay.
Am I back?
Yes, yes.
So great. The Turtle Group has been great.
Rebecca,
and we've been throwing around some
sorry, Victoria, you keep chipping out recently. Can you hear us?
I hear you fine, yeah. Let me check.
Is everyone else hearing Victoria okay?
Now it's much better, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Let's push forward. Better? Yeah, I have to talk to Jason about our Starlink. So I'm going to push ahead just in the interest of time and talk about some of the successes that these collaborations, you know, as I said, all the groups have been working very successfully together over these years. And a lot of things that we've done that have been, you know, that have been proven successful from the events, especially that have come out of our collaborations. Sports tourism, with cricket, international cricket stars coming from all over the world to compete and put on exhibitions at Reds, at the sports park, festivals that have gotten international acclaim, including the Calabash Literary Festival that happens every other year and is incredibly attended with thousands of people that come from not only from overseas, but also so many local and, you know, Jamaican supporters. And that's just become an incredible event that gets international coverage. There is, Jason, you want to fill in and tell us more of some of the events?
Yeah, so we have the annual hook and line fishing tournament. We have the off-road triathlon, which is the longest running off-road triathlon in the world, started back in 1995. And all of these events bring both locals and visitors together. We have Black River Day. Black River was the first town in Jamaica to have electricity. The first car in Jamaica arrived through Black River. So an incredible historic town which borders and is included in the Greater Treasure Beach area. And then we just launched a new festival called the Food, Rum and Reggae Festival. Food because St. Elizabeth is the breadbasket of Jamaica. We have approximately 155,000 residents in our parish and approximately 85,000 registered farmers. So everything that goes into jerk seasoning, for instance, is from the Pedro Plains area, and that's one of Jamaica's largest agricultural exports. Rum, because we are also home to Appleton, which is the largest rum in the Caribbean, and lies approximately 45 minutes from here. And then reggae, of course, everyone knows about Jamaica's prowess in the reggae entertainment sector. So it's really, this festival was started to really bring small, medium, and large, vendors, cook shops, restaurants, bartenders, mixologists together, and to highlight what is unique about the offerings of not only what we grow, because food security is becoming more and more important, but also collaborating with local and international chefs. We have an award-winning chef coming from Cape Cod as our guest chef in November. This is November 10th to 12th. And in most of these events, just around the corner next weekend, we have our annual independence celebrations. And last year, for our 60th anniversary, we had what became known as the #1 community leading independence celebration, which is that we got 30 canoes to fly 60 Jamaican flags and to do a boat parade. That ended with us on Calabash Bay Beach, where we had a road parade with classic cars, tilt walkers, fire engines, the police, floats that were made by persons from the community. So we marched to the Treasure Beach Sports Park, where Chris Gale held a celebrity cricket match. And then it ended in the night at Jack Sprat, one of our more local restaurants, with JCDC, the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, with entertainers from the area. We are also known for putting on a phenomenal New Year's Eve party with fireworks every year. So those are some of the events that we have. We feel that it's important to promote the area and to do it through events that are going to be good for the area and be one that is going to position us for the right type of markets.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, I feel like also that's part of, as I was saying about the collaboration, that people are very willing to also see what's needed and to react quickly to it. And so this new festival, I think, has been something, a lot of guests ask about music, and we happen to have a lot of really talented musicians who come from the area. And of course, as Jason was saying about the food, being the breadbasket of St. Elizabeth, our parish is the breadbasket of the country. So highlighting, what we have naturally, and the rum, of course. So I think that's really what we're very good at, is identifying, when guests come and say, oh, where's their live music, or where is their music? And there's not a lot of that on offer all the time. A couple of the hotels offer that occasionally, but I think, just pivoting, seeing what's needed and developing things that meet the needs of the community who are coming to us is something that we're very, very good at. So other successes include, we've encouraged compliance among more villa and hotel owners to get licensing, and that's been a challenge, but it's also a success in some ways, relative. The authentic people-based experiences, range from everything from boat captains to small restaurants, as I was saying, and really encouraging our visitors to not come to a hotel or a villa and spend their entire vacation there. Each owner of hotels and restaurants knows that we work as a community and that the best you can do is to offer your guests experiences outside of your own lodging. And I think that's something that's very different than the rest of the island and a lot of the rest of the Caribbean, which really works to our advantage too. And people come back again and again for those experiences that go beyond the four walls, wherever they're staying, or the, the property lines where they're staying. The HEART organization here has been working as a new initiative that we're doing collaboratively again to build a commercial kitchen to train local chefs, because that is also something, although we have good food products, sometimes the local employees haven't been trained really properly on how to cook them and how to serve them. And so we really are needing some skills training both in the front and back of the house, in kitchens and in serving. So I think that that's something that's very exciting to me. I was a restaurant critic for 20 years and I worked in the food industry for a long time. So it's exciting to see and be part of that. As I said, we're working with the cluster and relevant public sector entities to give rise to other really important projects that include infrastructure, expansion and enhancement. We have problems with road, with water access, which is obviously a big problem, especially for farming areas. And we've had success in lobbying the government and other relevant entities with an aerodrome expansion, so that those small planes would come bringing guests and others, bringing not just only guests, but also supplies and needed things for an area that is quite remote and is not surrounded. We don't have, our nearest grocery store is a 45-minute to an hour drive away. So there are supplies that could really be needed here that also could be accessed by having better, obviously better roads and better airport or aerodrome. The health clinic initiative has been going on for some time and we're very close to opening it now. And again, that's Reds, Women's Group, DMO, all working very hands-on. Our members are all volunteers. We have no paid employees with our DMO. And that also is challenging because our members are all people who own businesses and are very busy, but the clinic has been, it's very exciting as well. Challenges that everyone—
Hi, Victoria. Just 2 more minutes to wrap up. Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, man. Obviously, lack of funding, acquiring new members, our websites and other tech needs upgrading and updating and upkeeping. Other challenges are the information that was provided by consultancies that happened some years ago before COVID, trying to institute them and keep them relevant. And, that has been a problem mostly because of our human resource availability. As I said, we're all volunteers. So that continues to be a challenge. And we're learning that community tourism thrives in the culture of collaboration. It's not just us. We really need all of our leaders and our community, people who are coming here as well, to listen to them and hear what they're saying and what their needs and wants are. Keeping with the tradition of collaboration, we're working with our clusters also, just you can see, harnessing the energy of the community, not just the organizations within, and getting those community members, to be part of. And I think we're very proud of the fact that it's very much not an us and them that you see in a lot of other areas where there is tourism, and then constantly trying to make sure that tourists and locals interact in a way so there is not a division or any kind of resentment or any problems. We're always trying to make sure that everyone is on equal footing and there's no huge gates around or people with guns, or there's not a strict division of who's a tourist and who's a local, and we like to work very closely with each other. And leadership is critical. Going forward, we're going to continue to look for sustained funding. We are improving our social media presence and encouraging visitors and locals to contribute to not only websites, but also to Instagram and other social media platforms. Increasing membership has been challenging, but we're moving forward in that, and that's a big focus for us. Getting more entities licensed so that we can improve our lobbying power, and then increasing niche visitors with, for example, the festival that Jason was telling us about, and just generally improving living standards for all. So I'm very eager to hear more from the rest of you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Thanks, Jason, for that great presentation. I want to just start with a couple of questions at this point, just capitalizing on what has already been shared in the Q&A. But let me just start with one as a follow-up directly to you, Jason and Victoria, about the governance model and the DMO experience. Like, what has been the factors in preparing the cluster, if you could cast your mind back then, to enter into this formalized structure? I mean, we recognize the activities as present, but how can you share with us what was the, I guess, the decision criteria leading to the formation of the DMO itself? What were the sort of initial support factors to allow?
So the grant from Compete Caribbean would have given us tremendous access to community tourism experts who came in and worked with us on various parts of developing the strategy. The truth of the matter is we did have to back up. Sometimes you have to take, 10 steps forward before you can take 10 steps backwards before you can take a few forward. So our rate of compliance was low in our community tourism space. So it took us working with TPDCO, the Tourism Product Development Company, to basically hold the hands of some of the persons who, don't take this the wrong way, but not maybe as educated, and in some cases, for instance, like let's say a lifeguard that couldn't read or write, right? One of our biggest successes, as an example, is that we're a fishing village, and a lot of the fishing stocks have been depleted. So working with fishermen to actually make them boat captains that were compliant with carrying visitors on nature-based tours. So getting them insurance, getting them licensed, to do their lifeguard certification, getting cushions in their boats, life vests in their boats, things like that. So it took pressure from overfishing, and then it provided visitors with an incredibly authentic experience, right? The fact that we have so at the end of the Compete Caribbean grant, we were expected to create a cluster, and created for that cluster to then create a DMO. And the DMO as a group is now a part of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association. So, for instance, during COVID, it gave us tremendous access to testing kits, to be able to work with other entities to get funding, care packages. It legitimized us, right? So it legitimized us in a way that it widened our access, our credibility, our influence, and quite frankly, it's hard to imagine Treasure Beach without it anymore. The last thing I would say is that we forgot to include in that presentation probably our largest victory to date, which is advocating to the government that we want to remain a low density. So we're the lowest density in the entire country. We have a prime minister who is all about growth and development, and we love him, and we get it, and quite frankly, we need the all-inclusives in Jamaica, but we wanted this village to remain low density and sustainable. So we have 30 rooms per acre, and also we have a tremendous amount of land that is under protection and preservation, like the upper and lower Black River Morass, which is a Ramsar Convention site, the largest wetlands in the English-speaking Caribbean, the Great Pedro Bluff going back to Alligator Pond and up to Flagaman, the dunes in Parity and Fort Charles. So yeah, I tried to fit a lot in there.
Thanks for that. And just for clarity, you formed an association, a registered association, non-profit?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Okay, yeah. Great. Thank you. Jason, I just may have another one for you as well. A question from one of the participants or attendees is, are you in favor of an all-inclusive model? And if you have a choice, which one would be? I think you've answered that in terms of the
I'm not, we are not an anti all-inclusive organization. Jamaica needs the employment. We need the tax base. When I visit some of the smaller countries in the Caribbean, like a Tobago, what happens is that let me put it a different way. Treasure Beach benefits from tremendous air link to Jamaica, right? And we wouldn't have that air link if we didn't have our massive rooms. So we believe that a country should be zoned as low, medium, and high density. And you should pick those zones and of course conservation. So it's really 4. We believe that those zones should be very carefully thought through, because you do need a critical amount of rooms. Unless you're St. Bart's and you're super high end. A person just came, a friend of mine just returned from St. Bart's and he said a coconut was $20 US. Right. So we're not anti all inclusive.
Thank you. Appreciate it. A question for the team from Rupa Nuni, from Kerry Fountain, of course, from Bahamas. What would be your KPIs at Visit Rupa Nuni for measuring success, your key performance indicators? How do you objectively measure the results as you set out to really get that space and that destination viable, sustainable, etc.? So what are some of the measures you use to measure your performance and success indicators? So this is to the team from Rupa Nuni.
Hey, so one of the things for us has been definitely membership. When we started in 2017, there were 20 registered businesses. As I said, right now we're up to over 84. Also, we are working with the Guyana Tourism Authority to collect data on the actual revenue. What we can say anecdotally is that since the emergence of Visit Rupa Nuni, we've had a steep increase, even with COVID, or rather if we take the COVID section out, an increase in the revenue to individual businesses, but also to the region as a whole. And then of course, and we have been able to demonstrate an increase in domestic arrivals since we've started our local marketing campaign. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thanks a lot. So there are 2 great questions that went out for the Swiss Contact colleagues. They've been answered, and what I will do subsequent with the team from CTO is we're going to send those out because they're very important questions. For the interest of time, we'll manage them. But Swiss, if you look at the Q&A section whilst you're going through the rest of this particular webinar, you'll see the responses, but we will capture those questions and answers specifically on the presentation on governance models. Very good questions from Danny and others as well. And one final question for our friends at Treasure Beach. Do you find that the accommodation providers, hotels and villas, are willing to work with each other to make the cluster work, or is it that there's a standalone sort of let me just take care of my own interest, causing a bit of cliques or like insular activities? Or do you find that the owners are working together to grow the wider space itself?
We feel like there's a tremendous amount of collaboration, you know, and we promote that, we encourage that, we provide those opportunities. As an example, we're asking all of our villa owners right now to sponsor a boat for the boat parade, right? So everyone can say they participated, they took part, whether it's a small place and they can give 20 US, or it's a larger property that can give 200 US. So, you know, we encourage each other, we learn from each other. We have a very, very active Treasure Beach stakeholder group. So the communication is extremely high. Every single day, we celebrate our victories and we're in the weeds with each other when we're talking about challenges, right? So of course this morning we're all bigging up the reggae girls for, you know, for their Brazil, right? Be an accident on the road this afternoon because, you know, 50 members and be close, somebody's going to be able to call the doctor to say at the hospital to say so and so is coming, right? So we really have a very high level of communication, and I think that really helps a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for that insight.
I just want to add, as Jason was saying, and I think that it's an education process, because when new people come in and buy properties, they're not used to that in their other communities they've been in. And so it is a very grassroots communication. And so by using this WhatsApp group that people talk, as Jason says, dozens of messages every day, people do tend to communicate with new owners, like, look, this is how we do it here. Make sure that your guests, collaborate with each other and go, and I think that that's an important part of what makes this different and very, it's very unusual.
Setting the culture. Thank you very much, Victoria. Let me just invite Cecilia from Swiss Contact. I know you've been fielding some questions in the chat. Any final comments on the questions that were posed? I'll give you a few minutes on the floor and then we'll move on to our CBT project updates.
Thank you, Brian. Just I've seen the question from Captain Neighbors about the role maybe of the hotels of the villas inside the DMO. I'm not sure for who was this question, but maybe I can give some insight as well. I think for the DMO, it's very important to have the support of the businesses, and even though the big ones, because a DMO is to promote a destination. It's not to promote only an individual product. And what makes the beauty of a product as well, it's for the people, for the visitor, it's to understand that the product belongs to a destination. And then when you can market a product, then you can market a destination, and you can market as well the different experience inside the destination, and then you can increase the visibility of the destination and increase the visibility of the product and of the big hotels and so on. So I think it is one argument to propose to the big hotels or villas or villages to be part of a DMO. That's really they can benefit from a destination management marketing.
Thanks, Cecilia. And of course, your other guidance and the two other questions, I think, are quite sound, and we'll share those as well. So in the interest of time, again, we'll have an open forum towards the end. We'll indulge you for some of your time just past the 12 o'clock mark, or sorry, 1 o'clock mark, 12 where I am. Let me just now invite our 3 cluster project representatives. So we have the Andros, Bahamas cluster, we have the Belize Garifuna cluster, and then we have the Dominica CBT cluster. I will just ask those presenters to just limit the presentation to about 5 to 6 minutes per update on each of the projects that you're speaking to. Get to the salient points regarding some of the highlights and issues around cluster formalization, governance, sustainability concerns, etc. And then we'll open the floor for some more active discussion following those conversations. So let me start with Andros. I think we have Benjamin Pratt. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Brian. Just want to share my screen here. Hey, thanks again. I'm pleased to be representing the Bahamas in this webinar. And I'm going to talk a bit about the Andros Cluster project. Hello?
We're hearing you, Benjamin. Just have to slide your screen.
I'm having some difficulties in that area.
You want to try uploading one more time? Stop sharing and upload again.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, thanks again. Just want to give you some background information on the Andros project. The Andros CBT cluster project was one of 3 selected by Compete Caribbean in 2020 to receive technical grant funding in the amount of $300,000 to be dispersed over a 2-year period beginning 2021. The selection was based on a concept note that was submitted by the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, which called for leveraging the rich cultural and natural assets of Andros to develop, brand, and deliver sustainable year-round community-based tourism experiential products that are safe, satisfying, and market-ready. So in terms of the objectives of the project, the Andros CBT cluster identified the following areas for critical business and entrepreneurial improvements. 1, capacity building for existing businesses and training and certification of flats, fishing, birding, and nature tour guides. 2, product development, branding, and digital innovation. And then, of course, 3, cluster formation, legalization, and corporate management. The next slide shows the makeup of our cluster, which comprises some 84 members. And this is, of course, across the tourism spectrum, some 27 being accommodations, 20 being in the area of food and beverage, 7 in terms of tour companies and guides, 2 in transportation. And of course, this is across 4 districts of Andros, which includes North Andros, Central Andros, South Andros, and Mangrove Key. The next slide shows our cluster governance structure. We have a steering committee, national steering committee, that collaborates with the cluster manager, who reports to the regional technical consultant, who then reports to the CTO and regional stakeholder committee, which ultimately reports to Compete Caribbean facility, a partnership facility. The next slide shows a listing of our cluster members, our steering committee members, which is chaired by Ms. Carolyn Stewart, deputy chair being Edison Sumner, and the secretary, of course, being Ms. Jane Simmons, who also serve as cluster project manager. And again, the committee is made up of persons from across not just the tourism spectrum, but also supporting agencies such as the Bahamas Development Bank, the BAMSI, which is a training agency, Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, and several others. And of course, I also want to mention the Out Island Promotion Board. So what's the current state of our cluster project? We've had 2 official launches in June 29th to be exact, was the North and Central Andros launch. Then on the June 30th, we had the South Andros and Mangrove Key launch of the project. Most recently, last month or so, we've had a marketing agency that was assigned to the Andros project. It's called the Trove Tourism Development Advisors, which is collaborating with the NSC and the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism to develop and implement a destination product branding and marketing strategy. Then flats fishing and birding. The BAMSI, Bahamas Agriculture and Marine Science Institute, has developed, in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, a flats fishing, birding, and nature tour guides training and certification programs that will be delivered by the 3rd and 4th quarters of this year. In fact, the flats fishing program is scheduled to commence by Thursday of this week. There is also a signage erection project that's being delivered by the 4th quarter of 2023 by the Bahamas National Trust and the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism. Then the capacity building and digitization innovation workshops for the cluster members that is being delivered by the 3rd and 4th quarter of this year by CTO. And then, of course, There is the cluster formalization to be for the transformation of the cluster into a corporate entity by the end of the fourth quarter of this year. Some of the challenges that we've had, alignment of common objectives and full cooperation from all players in the 4 districts. That's been a challenge because we're dealing with actually 4 districts. In terms of addressing that situation, there is a WhatsApp group that was established by the cluster manager, and she's using it very, very effectively for communication between herself and the cluster members. Other challenges, the geographical size of Andros and the makeup of it makes it very challenging in terms of travel, logistics, and expenses. Andros is some 2,300 square miles in terms of overall size. It has a population of just over 7,000 persons. And it's very difficult moving from one area to the next because of the makeup of the island. It's not just a single island, but actually a cluster of islands that's knitted together. So that's been a challenge. So in terms of addressing that particular challenge, we've been able to consolidate a number of activities and meetings on the ground in Andros where possible. And we've also appointed point persons to assist with tasks. Number 3, need for improved infrastructure in all 4 districts of Andros. Again, it's a challenge that it's being addressed effectively with the public and private sector agencies. We have challenges such, of course, internet connectivity, electricity, telephone connection sometimes, challenges with airport. There's a need for upgrades so that we could allow international commercial airlines to come into the island. That is a challenge, but it's being addressed, as I said, with the public and private sector agencies. Finally, the need for banking and payment solutions across the 4 districts of Andros. Fortunately, Andros does not have physical bank presence on the island for most of it. And it makes it very difficult for persons to make business transactions. And so we're addressing this by coordinating with the financial services sector, which is looking presently at identifying the best possible solutions, looking at e-wallet solutions, as well as use of credit cards and how those could be used effectively. So I just want to take this opportunity again to thank the Compete Caribbean Partnership Facility for the grant provided to us, the Caribbean Tourism Organization, our National Steering Committee, Cluster Project Manager, Ms. Jane Simmons, who's been working tremendously hard, the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, Investment and Aviation, the Cluster Project members themselves, and of course, those agencies and firms which have been very, very supportive to the cluster. So having said all of that in the time that I've had, I thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate that presentation. Good time management also. Next, let me invite Yuri Roberts from Belize, the Belize CBT project with a focus on the Garifuna communities there. Over to you, Yuri. Hi, Yuri. I'm not sure if we're hearing you, but you want to just try your mic?
A pleasant good day, everyone.
Yuri, we're not really hearing you very well. Can you try again? Also, you can start your slideshow on your PowerPoint. Right now, we're seeing it in the operating, the editing mode.
And perhaps also turn off your video. That will help with bandwidth.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah. You want to try uploading the presentation again?
Good morning, everyone. Can you see it now? Can you hear me?
We can see and hear. Thanks.
All right, let me get right into it. Yes, so our project in Belize is the Garifuna Cultural Trail. And first of all, welcome to Hopkins and Langriga. These are the two destinations that encompass our project, our cluster members. And in Belize, the Garifuna culture is very vibrant, it's very rich and authentic. We celebrate so many festivities, as we celebrate our music, our dancing, our food, and of course, our rich history. So in terms of objectives of this cluster project, the first objective is for us to work together using the community-based tourism strategy. And when we say work together, we mean in terms of understanding our market and doing the necessary marketing. For example, we want to optimize on those visitors that are already visiting Belize, and we want to target new niche markets, those cultural adventure travelers that want to immerse themselves and understand and embrace our culture. So we want to offer the Garifuna culture as a tourism offering. We want to do it in a structured and organized way. The thing is, most of our members and other stakeholders as well are offering the Garifuna as a tourism offering, but it's not being done in an organized and unstructured way. So we want to do it in a manner that can preserve the culture while we share the history and the traditions and so forth. We want to do it in a respectful way. And this is what the project comes in and helps us. It helps us with the marketing, as I mentioned earlier, and working together, we want to do the capacity building, training, getting everyone up to par. For those that are entering the market, we want to get them visitor ready. Some of our members that are existing, get them market ready, and those that are ready to get them export ready. So we want to do that in a together way. And of course, product development. Again, with the help of this project, we want to establish new products, new trails within these two destinations to start with, because we do have other Garifuna communities in Belize, but these are the two most vibrant to start with. And of course, self-sustainability of the cluster. When the project is all finished, we want the cluster to have a management entity. And for that entity, then to continue the day-to-day operations, continue the marketing of the website, the social media, reaching out to those existing customers and destinations that are coming here and reaching our new markets as well. And at the end, the bottom line is we want our locals, our members, most of all, to increase their revenues, at least between 20 to 40%. And we see that as very feasible and viable as we offer the Garifuna culture, which will be very authentic and very rich as our local will have a say within these tourism destinations. Just to give a cluster overview, we have 50 cluster members, both from Dangriga and Hopkins, 25 each. 52% are female, 48% are male-owned businesses. Most of the businesses are established firms that are market ready, and we do have some that needs to be visitor ready. And approximately 80% of these firms are legally registered. They have a legally registered business. But of course, with the project and the consultancy that we're about to get on ground, some of these businesses might choose to move from just a legally registered business to a company or even to a corporation. But that is yet to be seen upon the advice that we get. And how we put it all together, these Hopkins and Dangriga destination, I mean, we have all the resources in terms of accessibility. We are an hour and a half away by road, paved road from the international airport. And if you want to do a local flight, it's only 15 minutes. And then from Dangriga to Hopkins, vice versa, we are about 21 miles or a 30-minute drive on paved road, so it's easy accessible. Within the cluster members, we do have accommodations, we have attractions, we have activities. For example, we have the Garifuna Museum. I believe one of the only within the region. And we do have many other Garifuna offerings that I will share with you shortly. For example, we have the Garifuna doll making, we have the Garifuna drum making, cassava making, we have a variety of gallery, arts and gallery and restaurants, and the music, of course. And one product development that we are working with our members is, for example, the doll making. It's a product already. So what we're doing is trying to make it an experience, the doll making, the drum making, so you can come and you can make your Garifuna doll from start to finish, and at the end of the tour, you take that doll with you. In terms of the cluster composition, again, just to explain a little bit more in terms of Dangriga and Hopkins destinations, the Dangriga destination is what we are trying to establish as a tourism destination. And the Hopkins destination is an emerging destination. And I will explain a little bit further on these shortly, but within these both destinations, within a 30 miles radius, we have a variety of natural resources available. For example, our Barra Reef, which is the largest living barrier reef in the world, is very accessible by boat from the many beaches we have right along within Hopkins and Dangriga. We have the only jaguar preserve in the world, rich of rainforest, natural jungle, and of course we have the authentic culture. So we have these three diverse natural resources all in one place and very accessible. So it makes these destinations very attractive to our visitors. And just a little bit on the tourism data as it is right now. In 2019 in Hopkins, we welcomed almost 38,000 visitors. In Dangriga, it was about 17,400, and that was pre-COVID. In 2022, we have seen the numbers, we're getting back there, 18,000 in Hopkins and about 3,800 in Dangriga. But from all indications, from all reports and all projections, that this coming year in 2023 season, 2024, projections are that we will get to that pre-COVID number. So as we prepare on the ground right now and we get our Garifuna product together, we'll be ready to meet the demand of these visitors. Again, the night stayed in Hopkins are about 5 nights and 2 nights in Dangriga, and the average daily spend within these destinations about 175 US per day per person. Just some quick success and challenges of the project so far. Some successes, identification of the cluster needs. Again, we have clearly identified our needs, knowing and acknowledging that, hey, Dangriga, we are entering now as a destination, and Hopkins is already in there, and they are an emerging destination. We have seen the demand for the Garifuna trails. We have gotten inquiries from all over when are the trails going to be available. And another big success is the support from our stakeholders. First of all, from our National Steering Committee. The support has been tremendous, getting down to our members, and of course the Ministry of Tourism and the Belize Tourism Board. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. And just from initial conversations, the Belize Tourism Industry Association and the Belize Hotel Association, they are all willing to work with us and to offer the Garifuna culture as a tourism product. Some challenges, just the tourism infrastructure.
Just one more minute again, thanks.
Sure. Just the tourism infrastructure within these destinations, and we know that the government of Belize and the Ministry of Tourism, Belize Tourism Board, they have a series of projects ongoing. And again, our resources, access to resources for members to really expand, but we do see it as taking full advantage and learning and gaining as much from this project as a phase one, and hopefully other stakeholders will see the benefit of this to really invest and make the resources available to our local members. And these are just some pictures from our project so far. The project launch that was hosted in March 2022. And our team, our donors that have visited us in the beginning, Complete Caribbean team. We have our marketing consultant doing one-on-one and co-generation meetings. And we have the British High Commission team. So as we can see, our donors have seen it in the beginning. We want to encourage them to come back in end so we can show you the end product. It's going to be amazing and wonderful. Thank you all.
Thanks, Yuri, appreciate it. Over to you quickly, Natasha, to do your presentation on Dominica's CBT.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, actually, everyone. My name is Natasha Green, and I am the cluster manager, project manager for the Dominica Community-Based Tourism Cluster Project. This project has been designed to support the development and enhancement of products and services in the Kalinago territory.
Hi, Natasha, you want to just go to presentation mode?
What do I do that?
Bottom of that screen, right on the background and the green space, you should see a little, there you go. It's the one to the end with a little,
this?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Is it better? Okay, great.
Yes, thank you.
So this project is designed to develop the products and services offered in the Kalinago territory, which is one of our last settlements of indigenous people in the Caribbean region, as well as to support the enhancement of the products and possibly services that could be offered by the Dominica Essential Oils and Spices Cooperative. The Kalinago territory has been reliant on the tourism sector for a very long time, and we have been sort of enhancing and promoting our culture and traditions as a cultural attraction. For visitors coming to Dominica, for regional visitors exploring culture and heritage tourism, as well as a means of sort of preserving our culture and heritage here in the community. The Dominica Essential Oils and Spices Cooperative has been focused primarily on the production of bay oil, export of bay oil, and the development of a few products related to bay oil, especially bay rum. This is one of the primary products that they have been focused on for the last 10 years plus. And we are hoping that this project can help them explore new value-added products using bay oil as well as other essential oils, which can be produced using local herbs and spices on island. The cluster project intends to focus on 6 major areas as outlined here: the attraction of the accommodation sector, which is primarily the Kalinago territory, to help retain the authenticity, tradition, and cultural architectural features related to the indigenous community, as well as to improve the market readiness of all products and services. That is both products, which are tangible products, as well as services in terms of the experiences that visitors can indulge in. The certification and training of cluster members, beneficiaries, that includes Dominica Essential Oils as well, and their membership, bundling of products and services to ensure sustainability of the project, and of course, establishing relationship and linkages between the Kalinago territory and the Dominica Essential Oils and Spices Cooperative. And that is especially important for us because we usually operate in isolation, and there is some type of similarity or linkage already existing between the southeastern communities of Dominica and the northeastern, which is the Kalinago and the essential oils sector. We are hoping to explore that a bit more and to ensure that there is overall economic benefit for both cluster communities. So the Dominica Essential Oils and Spices Cooperative has been in existence for more than 20 years. The primary product, as outlined here, is as shown here, is the bay rum. And as much as we have been exporting some of the bay oil and bay rum products, there is a lot of limitations in terms of what they have done and what they feel that they can do. So hopefully we can inspire them to do more before the end of this year. The Kalinago community, as you can see here, this is one of our premier tourism facilities, the Kalinago Barana Ote, which means the Kalinago village by the sea. And it has been developed since 2006. And it serves as a model village depicting the traditional lifestyle of the Kalinago, the indigenous people of Dominica. And on site, you can find the cultural practices like boat building, cassava bread making, craft making, as well as archery, traditional dances and other things. And of course, you can find the traditional restaurant on site, which offers local cuisine to visitors. The other photo depicts the traditional groups face painting as one of the activities on site in the traditional wear, which is the waiku. And our cultural groups are the ones usually promoting the traditional dances for 3 different cultural groups: the Karifuna cultural group, the Karina cultural group, and the Kalinago dancers. So in our everyday lifestyle, we do not usually illustrate the traditional lifestyle of the indigenous people, but as a tourism offering, the main facility offers those, as well as various cluster members also providing their own services or their own experiences to visitors. Achievements so far for the year 2020-2022. The revision of the cluster development plan and budget in line with the request of CTO and compete based on the reduction of the budget from the original 400,000 to 300,000. The activities and implementation plan needed to be tweaked to ensure that we covered all the essential parts of the project and in tune with the expectations of the stakeholders themselves. And that included improving and including additional details related to the Dominica Essential Oils and Spices, especially since the original cluster development plan focused primarily on the Kalinago territory. By creating a merger of the 2 cluster communities, the plan actually needed a bit tweaking and improvement. Stakeholder consultations, which was very critical for us because as much as we have the cluster beneficiaries expecting some type of tangible benefits, we also needed to engage some of the authorities, local authorities who had a stake, who still have a stake in the project and who could ensure its successful implementation. And additionally, research to ensure that we had all the information required based on the stakeholder expectations, especially Dominica essential oils and spices, to ensure that the cluster plan actually covered what is it that they hope to benefit from this cluster initiative. One of the key points as well, the engagement and discussion with UNDP and the Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment over the last year, 2022. The Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment in collaboration with UNDP engaged the winter consultants to develop an indigenous tourism brand, which is currently in its final stages of discussion with the Ministry of Tourism. And that actually will sort of complement what we're trying to accomplish with the cluster development project in terms of actually promoting at the end the entire community, the offerings of the Kalinago territory, branding it as a destination within a destination to some extent, because we sort of differentiate from the rest of the nature offerings of Dominica. We promote culture and heritage tourism in the community. Discussions with Discover Dominica Authority, which is a key local authority in terms of marketing for Dominica in its entirety, and gradually for the Kalinago territory and the Dominica essential oils. During the initial stages, we also had discussions with the Kalinago stakeholders themselves through a consultation during the visit of the regional technical consultant, Mr. Frontin. That was in January of last year. Just to provide them with an update on the project, to re-engage them in terms of what the project will be achieving over the 2-year course, as well as to get feedback from them as to how we can improve it and ensure that they are satisfied at the end.
Hi, Natasha, just 2 more minutes. Just time to wrap up. Yeah, just get to the points at the end there.
Okay, so over the year, we've done capacity building with the cluster in some key areas. We've commenced these activities, and we're hoping that COMPIT can provide the additional training required for the cluster, both cluster communities. We've engaged the cluster in terms of supporting their exposure in local trade shows last year, especially during the peak time of the cultural season, which was basically September to November. We also assisted in providing them with banners to display their product offerings. As of this year, we have completed so far the agro-processing consultancy in favor of the Essential Oils and Spices Cooperative to ensure that they actually are placed on better footing to accomplish their goals moving forward. That included the revision of their business plan, their business model, a roadmap for improving success and diversification of the products and offerings, marketing and staffing as well, to ensure that they reach their full capacity, and especially diversification of their offerings, the products. We are currently in the stage of selecting a suitable architect to undertake the architectural consultancy, which is in favor of the Kalinago accommodation sector. And this will cover some 4 areas related to traditional architectural designs, the landscape of the community, developing heritage sites, campgrounds, as well as redesign of local bus stands, which is the first point of contact for persons passing through the area. And most of them are located at the entrance of the hamlets in the community. We're also finalizing the market and product development, expression of interest, as well as product development for immediate launch. And hopefully we can take that into the rest of the year. A few images to highlight what we've accomplished: consultations with Kalinago clusters, Kalinago Chief and Council, cluster members themselves, the National Steering Committee, revamping of the Kalinago Tourism Association with some of the key tourism stakeholders in the community. Most of them are tour guides, managers of sites, managers of offerings, tour operators and the like. Engagement with winter in terms of the consultations related to developing the indigenous tourism brand. Some of the trainings that we've undertaken so far, introducing cluster members to digital payment systems, tour guide training for the cluster and young persons of the community, business training for the cluster, which is especially critical in terms of pricing, product development, and developing business concepts. Business cluster registration, which is of course another important area, because most of the cluster members operate businesses. They have been operating for up to 5 years and they're not officially registered. They are not officially certified to operate, and they do not have signage and everything else that relates to better standards of operation. These are some of the cluster members supported through banners and their participation in some of the trade shows locally. Cassava products, handcraft products, essential oils, specially designed handbags, and everything else. As you can see, cassava is one of our main offerings here as a traditional cuisine, and we are hoping to develop that and promote that a bit more.
Thanks, Natasha. I think we're up for time here.
Okay, thank you.
But we will share the full presentation with everyone afterwards as well. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, folks, thanks for your patience. And this has been a really insightful conversation. I want to open the floor briefly for a few questions. Before I do that, Cecilia, I asked whether you could just address this issue that came up once or twice on a little bit of the differences between a DMO and a DMC. I think there's some questions around how they interplay and how they relate with each other or not. Maybe a few seconds just to comment on that and then open the floor. Anyone with live questions from the clusters or cluster members, please, of course, raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you.
Yeah, just okay. A DMC mainly it's a business organization. So the main difference between the DMO and the DMC is the social aspect. It's a DMO most of the time they do have to run non-profit activities, and this needs to be paid somehow by someone. So, and the DMC, they have to run after profits, and they may not have enough time to do all these non-business activities, which are actually very time-consuming. Advocacy and so on, it's very time-consuming. So that's why sometimes it's a bit difficult for a DMC to be run really as a DMO, or to have the same kind of mandate that a DMO has. And since you work on business and you have to make profits, you can create as well conflict inside the members, because you have to select the best members, and you may take the risk to forget a bit the less competitive and the less interesting members, and that's not really the objective of a DMO. So except if the DMC has really a social mandate, if it is a social enterprise, yeah, that can make sense. So
could DMCs be members of a DMO then?
Yeah, definitely. A DMC can be a member of a DMO, and it will be a great member of a DMO. It depends. Sometimes they support a DMO, they can give funds, and they can discuss with their client, with their visitor. That's maybe they can contribute as well, more specifically to fund the DMO. It can be part of their social engagement. Yeah, definitely they can, because they have as well the feedback from the customers, from the clients, so it can support the DMO and the members of the DMO to improve the offer, to improve the standards and so on, and to better understand the visitor flows and the needs of the visitors.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. Appreciate that. If anyone has any questions and would like to come on the mic and ask them, we have the presenters from all the destinations, both current projects, completed projects, and of course we have our experts from Swiss Contact, available to have and address these questions. A lot of them have been asked and answered within the Q&A, and we will document and share that along with the webinar recording, so you can actually see the details of those questions. But if anyone else, especially from the clusters, Dominica, Andros, Belize, would have any questions on what they've heard today, now is your time. We just open up for a few more minutes again and then wrap up. Go ahead, Cecilia. Sure.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, if I may, I have one comment to make maybe for the external funders. Sometimes it's underestimated the needs of the funds to develop their own revenue models for DMO. And sometimes it's a bit, when you fund a DMO, you have different activities, marketing that you would like to fund, but sometimes they need money to invest in developing services, in developing their own revenue models. So yeah, take this into account for your fundings.
Thanks, Cecilia. And let me throw out a question from Crystal Bethel from the ministry in Bahamas. Has anyone, and I want to direct this more to Rupa and to Treasure Beach, the challenges with fundraising or financial sustainability? I remember, Jason, you were mentioning some events. Is it that these events or the profits derived from these events are reinvested back into that association, or between Rupa and Treasure Beach, whichever one wants to go first? How have you been able to address, and I'm not saying it's a resolved issue, but at least tackle some of the initial movements towards generating funds and financial sustainability?
Yeah, so we are very strategic with who we pursue you know, for funding and sponsorship. You know, for instance, the Calabash Literary Festival, it's very hard to get funding for a cultural event. It's easier to get something for sports or entertainment, right? So I mean, we have a budget of about 120 to 100 US dollars for this event. It's authors and poets come from all over the world. This is the first year, and we started in 2000 that we've gotten an international sponsor with Audible. Audible came on board. But so Calabash itself is a nonprofit organization. We have partners. We have persons with a vested interest. We have persons who donate who just want to be anonymous. You know, so every project is slightly different. For instance, the Treasure Beach Health Clinic, we have a partnership with some doctors out of Florida who have been doing clinics here for the last 10 years, and they were willing to put some funding. There's also an excellent organization called the American Friends of Jamaica that was set up by previous ambassadors to Jamaica, and is chaired by a lady called Wendy. Foundation, the Chase Fund, these are all kind of pots that we can go to. Building a commercial training kitchen to certify chefs is going to be an expensive endeavor, because we know that commercial kitchen equipment is not cheap, and you want to obviously get things that are going to last. You want to get good name brands, good quality. So that could cost probably in the region of about $150,000 as well. We'll go to the Tourism Enhancement Fund. So one of the things we can really point to is public-private partnership. We're extremely proud of what we've done with the revitalization of Lovers Leap, with the Treasure Beach Sports Park, with the Lionel Densham Airdrome, and these upcoming projects that we have. So, you know, it's all about having a vision, finding the right partners, being transparent, coming in on budget and on time as much as you can. Because, you know, the truth is that you can have a hiccup with a project, but you need to communicate that, because, you know, it's all about good governance. And, you know, us here in the Caribbean, we know that it's all about, you know, your reputation, right? And we know that trust doesn't come overnight. So we know that one project leads to the other, right? So it either becomes easier for you or harder for you, depending on what your track record looks like.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that insight. Anything from Rupanini team? We have the two other questions, or three.
I would just say quickly, our biggest challenge is funding. We have been incredibly lucky that currently or prior to the Complete Caribbean project, there is an EU-funded project called Sustainable Wildlife Management, who've been helping us to underwrite our core costs. And one of the primary objectives of the Complete Caribbean project is actually the development of our new business model, our new business plan, which hopefully will support us as we start to transition away from exclusively donor funded to a more sustainable model.
Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate it. Let me also put a question to Cecilia. I think you answered, but let me just ask you to speak a little more to that question on, can a DMO operate as a for-profit entity with a cluster for reinvestment purposes, but not for the individual members themselves? I'm sure you tackle it, but let me just give it a live answer just quickly.
Yeah, well, it depends on the constitution of the DMO. It depends on what the members have decided. I mean, if they say that, okay, everything will be reinvested, and then we do not expect anything, I mean, in return, but so that's fine. But if they say that anyway, we need some percentage that to be back and so on, so it depends on the constitution. That's to the member to decide.
And I suppose the legal structure that's allowed, because from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective, if you register an entity that's for profit, then you have to name shareholders who are effectively owners. In a non-profit in Trinidad, you have members, and what happens is that there's no pecuniary gain to any of the members directly, and all surpluses from activities have to be reinvested. So I guess you have to be guided also by the legislation available in the country and the actual constitution of the DMO that you set up.
Yeah, but it depends. Then I think it depends on the vision and the mandate first of the DMO, and then you decide what kind of status you want to have, because it depends on what you want to implement inside your mandate. But then regarding the benefit from the members, it's not only about financial benefits. You can say, okay, you get access to training, you get access to more exposure, you get access to more visibility. So it could be as well in kind. Reinvestment or in-kind support to members.
Yeah, as members, you get some strategic advantage as being a member. Yeah. Final question, folks, from Kerry Fountain as well. I'm going to put this to Rupanini as well as to Treasure Beach. How affordable, or have you seen challenges on the issues of, I guess this is liability insurance for tow activity amongst the members? And I know that sometimes that could be a bit prohibitive, but I know it's a requirement that many of the international tour operators and guests expect when they enter destinations. So from the Rupanini and the Treasure Beach experience, have you all been able to find ways to creatively address the issue of securing liability or indemnity insurance for your tour guide activity or tour operator activities in those destinations?
Yeah, so we were able to secure a group insurance policy for boat captains to take tours. We would have insurance for persons who come to the Treasure Beach Sports Park. So it's not cheap, and we know that insurance has gone up dramatically in the last 6 months. But it's an essential part of operating. And we try and encourage persons, for instance, not to just take an unlicensed taxi even though it can be more affordable. So we believe that insurance and compliance is important. And when our boat captains went from non-compliant to compliant, they didn't see themselves as hustlers anymore. They saw themselves as legitimate stakeholders of the community tourism pie, so they more saw themselves as respectable small business operators and not just like hustlers kind of calling out to people on the beach. And even if they can't read and write, maybe it's their wife or their nephew or child who's doing the Instagram and taking reservations. Sometimes these boat tour captains have reservations months in advance. So, you know, they don't have to be on the beach shouting at you. So insurance is available, but expensive.
Thanks. Any feedback from Rupa Nuni?
Right. So unfortunately, within the Guyana framework, this is actually a national problem. And so we have actually been collaborating with the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, which is the overarching umbrella organization for tourism in Guyana, to try and negotiate with insurance companies on this issue. It isn't a resolved issue, it is something we are working on and are very aware of.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So at this point, I'm going to bring the conversation to a close. I think we could have gone even further, but it has been a very expansive and very enlightening discussion. I want to thank our team from Swiss Contact, of course, Cecilia, and my apologies, Cecilia and Isa Torres, as well as the team from Rupa Nuni, from Treasure Beach, our 3 cluster project representatives, including Bahamas, Andros project, Dominica, as well as Belize, the Garifuna Trail. I think we've heard a lot of important discussions. I don't think the conversation ends here today. We will look at those presentations as collectives, determine if there's a need to go deeper, and that's part of the feedback we'll solicit from you as well. Which areas from this introductory conversation you'd like us to dive deeper in, if it's in the setup, if it's in the financing arrangements, if it's in the legalities, because all of these will form part of the conversations, particularly for ongoing projects in those 3 destinations, about what are the next few steps and decisions to be taken. I think we'll also share an email that introduces the email, shares the email addresses and contact information for all 5 of the projects, so that there can be some collaboration and reach out directly and outreach to each of you guys. So maybe expect some of the participants here to reach out to get more one-on-one access to some of your insights and solutions that you shared today. And I do want to thank you for your time and patience in this conversation. On behalf of Compete Caribbean and CTO, we wish you a very enjoyable rest of your week and further success in your CBT endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.